self-imposed schedule, so that's always exciting. So this morning I'm going to be working on some lekku, which are head tails from the Twi'lek race in Star Wars. And I've been making them out of upholstery foam. I found this great tutorial, and so I'm gonna keep on with that. So this is where I'm at right now. So all of these lines are cuts in the foam. So I took the upholstery foam. This is an inch thick, because that's what I had on hand. I think she uses a 1/2 inch in her tutorial, and made a cone, and then used some physics and cut basically triangles out of it, and then glued them together. So this is pretty lightweight. My first iteration was gonna be Polyfill, which is the stuffing that you put into like stuffed animals, but that was really lumpy and I didn't like it, and the customer didn't like it. So we went with another option, which is the upholstery foam. So right now I am waiting, trying to use all of my resources. So this is some leftovers from the cuts that I made of the upholstery foam. And all I did was glue them back together. So we're gonna make a headpiece, piece to go under. So not quite a headpiece, we're not quite there yet. And so I used the Weldwood contact cement. And this is a brand new container. I had some of the smaller bottles, and they run out very fast, especially on a project this size. And if you don't use them for a while, they end up getting gunky and you have to end up throwing them away. So I went with a big container that I can seal with my rubber mallet. And I got this tip from another cosplayer using silicone brushes. Yeah, silicone. And so it's like the brushes that you would get for face makeup. And I actually have a couple that I use for like face masks and stuff like that. And so this is super easy to clean, that it just washes or pulls right off there. There are no bristles to like clump together. And so I tried it out this morning, and I am very pleased with the results. And since it's meant to be used with glue, it's okay if it gets a little wavy or something like that, because these will never be anywhere near my face. And I got an entire set. I got purple because that's what was the least expensive. I have a lot of purple this morning, so I'm not sure what that's all about. I've got my water cup, which is purple, and my oversized flannel that we made a couple weeks ago. So, yeah, so I'll show you the whole set I got of these brushes. And I got these off of Amazon. I'm sure you can get them other places if you are not an Amazon supporter. So it's a whole kit, a whole makeup brush kit. So I'm excited to see what some of these smaller brushes can do with the contact cement getting into those small places. But for now, while this finishes up drying, so the tutorial that I've been following, she uses hot glue. And I tried that, but I just ended up burning myself a lot. So I switched over to the contact cement because it is foam, and foam loves contact cement. Use it with EVA foam all the time. I had to put a little bit of a thicker layer because this foam, in some circles they call it open cell foam, and you can see sort of the pores in this foam. EVA is a closed cell foam, if you're using that kind of vernacular. So because it's open cell, it's gonna absorb the glue a little bit more, which is something that hot glue will not do, or that it doesn't do with hot glue, but it's safer for me to use glue that doesn't burn me whenever possible. So that's sort of where I am with that. So while we're waiting for that to finish, I'm gonna put my little lid on just for temporary. So the other thing that I'm doing is I'm putting the lekku into these tights. So I'm actually combining a couple of different tutorials that I found. I may or may not have an allergy to latex, so I'm avoiding it for the moment. So this is 2 pairs of tights. These are opaque dance tights, again, off of Amazon. It's just easier for me to find my supplies that way, especially random stuff that, and we are still in self-isolation here in my house because of my allergies and because of my migraines and everything else. It's just safer to not leave the house right now. Luckily, Georgia is starting to step up their vaccine protocol for people who are not over the age of 65. So that's exciting, and maybe someday I'll leave the house again. We'll see what happens. So the problem, that was my tangent for this morning. I can guarantee that there will probably be more. So the problem that I've encountered is the foam. I didn't get the ends of the cone as crisp as I wanted them to. So I'm going to try and cut 2 pieces of leftover upholstery foam to put in the ends here so that they'll be nice and solid and not look like the end of a deflated balloon. Very sad. So I have a couple of scraps because I keep everything, and that has really helped me out in the last couple of days that I hold on to just about everything, because you never know, and I have the room for it. So I have a couple of scraps left over from when I did my big cuts, so I'm gonna use these and see how they do in the ends of the tights. So I already took one of the lekku out. So what I also ended up doing with the tights is that I made the outer layer into a point. So this I actually stitched closed. The inner tight is still the rounded toe, like for a normal person. So what I'm gonna do is do my little cut and put that into the outer edge of the tight, and then I should be able to just put the inner tight back in there. So we'll see how that goes. All right, trying to get myself all situated here. My shirt today, I'm trying to help out, do some cross promoting with some friends who have small businesses. Today is from Cosplay Your Way. Their information is in the description below. You should definitely check them out. They have awesome cosplayers on their feeds, and they have a documentary out right now today, March 11th. Oh goodness. Yes, March 11th is still on Freeli TV, so you can go check that out. And I highly recommend checking them out. They are just awesome. All right, so I got excited. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the lekku that is still in the tight, and I'm gonna trace basically around the edge, and we'll start with that and see how it goes. And I want to be real careful to not actually get any of my Sharpie on the tight itself, because then I'll be mad and I'll have to get a new pair. Here's my little triangle. So I'm gonna pull out out my small self-healing cutting mat. So what I did was I just made some little valleys with my knife. My blade it's decently sharp, but the tip has worn off. So take my crafting scissors, and then I'm gonna cut right in the valley that I just made. Here we go, a nice little triangle. So I'm going to trace it on the other end since we have two lekku. Try and smooth out so the edges are a little bit bumpy. So I'm going to try and smooth those out a little bit. There we go. All right, so let's try first. So we've got our tights here, and I had already taken the one out. This is the inner tight that is, see, you still got the rounded toe. So I'm gonna take one of my triangles and just put it all the way at the end of the tight with the altered end. The original, one of the two tutorials that I'm looking at, the one with the person who did the foam, the upholstery foam, did it and then put liquid latex on top of it to make them look more like skin. So that is the part that I'm not using right now. And the other, I found a tutorial on YouTube where the person used the Polyfill and tights. So I'm sort of mashing those two together to see if I can get what I want. Yes, that is probably going to be a problem. So as I was getting it into the end of the tight here, can see that it still has those edges. I wasn't sure if putting it into this Stylotite was gonna round them out or not. Let's try. Let's see. Worst case scenario is that I have to round out the edges. Yeah, I want to round off those edges. I don't want that. So, no problem. And I'm just checking over here with this piece to make sure it's all squished together nice and good so that the glue will make contact. So the way you normally use contact cement is that you you put glue on two sides, wait for it to get tacky, and then stick it together. So, let's see. Use some of our geometry skills. So all I'm doing is basically cutting these corners at an angle to give it a little bit of a more rounded appearance. I say at an angle, like I'm holding the triangle at an angle, but I'm cutting it flat. Basically, if you've ever tried to draw a curved line on a computer, like using Photoshop or something, using a mouse, that you do it in small segments. So you do little straight lines, and when you zoom out, it's a curved line. So it's the same kind of concept here. Now, of course, the other option is to try and try and see if I can do the curve again, but that's what got me in trouble last time, so. I've also never sanded upholstery foam, and I don't know if that's possible or advisable. I haven't looked into it. So here is the one with straight edges, and this is one with more rounded edges. You can probably round them out a little bit more. Let's see what we can do. And I guess plan B, C is to take some EVA foam and just make a little cone and stick it in there. Y'all are so smart. All right, let's try this and see how that looks. So make sure we get the right tight. So this is our modified tight. Let's see how it goes. Well, it's still a little squared, but it's better. It's definitely better. Okay. It's definitely a little trial and error here, but that's okay. That's how we learn things, right? Also, foam clay might be a good contender for this if this doesn't work. All right, let's try this one more time. Not bad. Not bad at all. All right. I'm not mad about that. Let's do the other side. Actually, let's see how it looks with the tail in it before we do the other side. Before we get excited. So here is our foam lekku. You can see my attempt at the bottom there. So we put that in the outer tight, so we're going to take this second tight, the inner tight, and to get it all the way at the end, this is I don't really know how to describe it. It's basically reverse. So think of it like if you've ever put on tights. I don't know how many people out there actually wear 2 pairs of tights at a time. I get cold very easily, so I have many times in my life worn 2 pairs of tights at a time. And the problem comes in when you try and put both of them on at the same time, because that's not what they're designed for. So usually do 1 pair at a time. So what I'm gonna do is, so I've turned the unmodified tight inside out, and this is the factory finish edge that makes it curved. And I'm going to sort of pull it apart this way. And then basically roll it over the foam. It is really hard because these are tights when I'm taking pictures for them not to look just like legs. This is a similar technique to when I'm like turning binding or things of that nature in sewing. When you've got an end that you have sewed up and you want to turn it right side out essentially. Great, so there is the end. Make sure that we're going the correct direction. And it's just like putting on a pair of tights. And I want to pull it as tight as possible so I can get as much at the top. These are size small, medium. I probably could have gone for the next larger size, but I wasn't really sure what to expect. And worst case, if it's too small in the head area, I can just order the next size larger. They don't tell you in those type measurements exactly how that waistband's going to work out. Go. So you can see, especially as you get up to the top, how it's got sort of that green color, and you can sort of see the marks through it, which is why we wanted to double tight it. Because that second layer will add that opacity that we don't get consistently. And because it's one tight on top of another tight, that makes it much easier. The upholstery foam, because of its texture, it's supposed to have fabric stick to it. So that makes this process a little tricky if you're trying to just pull it on like a normal leg. All right. So here's what we're working with now. That's not great. This might be where our polyfill comes in. Let's try that. So Polyfill is literally just the name of the stuffing. I'm sure that there are other brands out there. So this is what it looks like when you pull it out of the bag, sort of cloud-like. So what I'm gonna do is start with half of that. So it can be squished down very small, very compact. So what I'm hoping is that I can create sort of a transition between this piece and the rest of the lekku tail that won't look lumpy. I see you. All right. space heater. Sorry about that. All right. That looks pretty freaking good. Let's get that all pulled up, and then I bet we can smooth that out. So I pulled it really, really tight in the first pair, so you could still see the lines a little bit. So just releasing some of that tension on the internal pair so that the fabric has a little bit of recovery, which is the word you use when something is elastic and you let it revert back to the state it wants to be at. So tights, when they stretch out, when you take them off and they sort of shrink back down, that's called recovery. Okay. That looks pretty dang good. All right. Now, of course, I've got my stitch on the outside, which I don't want. So let's see if we can rotate this around. I am not mad about that at all. All right, so I have to do the same thing on the other side. So our first step is going to be to trim down these edges so that it rounds it out, and then we'll repeat. So this time, taking what we learned from the last one, trying to eliminate any flat surfaces. So just so y'all can see it, maybe. Right now there's that little groove because I turned it at a sort of 90, yeah, I guess, some sort of angle, and cut the straight line off, but now I've got two straight lines. So basically working with all that pesky geometry and degrees and angles and stuff to basically create a curve out of straight lines. Also, because it's sort of this cone-ish shape, that the degrees are going to be greater at the base than they are at this end here. trees are out to get me today, y'all. We are apparently approaching peak tree pollen season here in Georgia. That's looking pretty rounded. So we'll do the same thing. We'll put it in the end and check and make sure that it's as round as we want it to be. So here's our difference right now. This is the side that we just did, and this is the side without. Make sure I pull the right one out. And I actually don't have to pull the other one all the way out, just that secondary layer. All right, that looks pretty good. Hi, how are you doing this morning? Doing all right, using couch materials to make costume pieces. It's always a good time. I'm avoiding the outside probably for the next couple of months while the pollen tries to kill me. But it is one of the benefits of wearing a mask all year, is that it has really helped with my allergies while I'm doing all the stuff to treat them. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to know that it's allergies that are causing a lot of my problems and not, you know, something else. But do what you gotta do and work with what you got, right? All right. Looking a little irregular there, my friend. There we go. That looks pretty good. And there are two weird legs. That's very, very awkward. It's been very awkward to photograph this project because everything looks terrible. All right. So we got that part done, which is super, super great. And so I have my very scary looking head over here. Has been stuffed with Polyfill to try and give it a little more stability, but the tights are too tight, the waistband of them is. And so what we need to do next is to make a headpiece that goes underneath the headpiece we're going to make on top. So I'm going to use my friend here for some initial measurements. Yeah. Part of the reasoning for getting new contact cement is this was made with the old contact cement and it does not stick well. So let's see what we can do. Got our tools, craft scissors, and Sharpie. There we go. So we got our piece here, and so the idea is that this sits sort of back, sort of where the hairline is, this kind of way, and then the lekku themselves will attach on sort of the back side and come out, so they end up coming out of basically the crown of the head is what we're going for. Poor old Frank here, that's his name now, the name of this head mannequin. At least it's the right size, even if it's not quite properly shaped. Alright. Here we go. I know everybody says that their superpowers are like flight and things like that. Mine would probably be extra limbs to make things like this easier. So all I'm doing is I've got it sort of wrapped around basically where I want it. I'm going to draw some lines on the foam. And we'll make some cuts and see how it goes. So I've made my 2 lines here and here. I'm gonna cut them off. See how close we get. They do have a current superpower, which is knowing when it's gonna rain, which is not a great superpower. The X-Men will not let me in with that, for sure. Alright, so due to the nature of Frank not being stable, it's actually going to work out perfectly. Yeah. Yeah, definitely not useful in battle. Unless you're fighting, like, I don't know, melting men. Maybe you're fighting guys made of chocolate or sugar, candy. Fighting candy people, if I know that a storm is coming, then we just gotta stall until the rain comes and then they just melt. So there's a very specific battle scenario for knowing when it's gonna rain. What is your weird superpower that's weirdly useful? My partner has a superpower that he always knows where the best restaurants are whenever we travel. So we always find cool and good places to eat while we're out, which is a pretty great and very useful superpower. These are the important questions of our time, what your useful superpower is that is actually just a normal human trick. So I've got my contact cement on both sides. I'm gonna let that get a little bit tacky, and then I think it is just a hair too small, so I'm going to use my little spacer here and do the same thing. And we'll just put it all together at one time. Because what I'm trying to prevent is from it being too tight on the customer's head. I do not want her to be uncomfortable. I don't usually try on headpieces, but I did try it on just to see and see if I needed to order larger tights, and it immediately gave me a headache, so I would like to prevent that for her. And I'm just going in here with this contact cement, and this was a piece that had some hot glue on it, so there were some sort of little divots in there. So I'm just filling that. This is the side with the contact cement, so that there's a nice sort of flat-ish surface for it to adhere to. And it's still a little damp. I mean, I just did this one, but so we will put our lid on here. Let that get a little bit tacky, and the next step is going to be, after we do that, to attach the lekku to the headpiece and see if we need to fill in spaces, that sort of thing. So in Star Wars, the Twi'leks they always have some sort of headpiece that sort of covers, I say always, the female Twi'leks typically have some sort of head covering, and it's usually like, it's almost like an old school flight helmet that's not a helmet, like the soft leather ones. It's very similar look to those. The other is little crowns and stuff like that. And so as you can see from the picture in the corner, this is the concept sketch from the customer. So we are gonna work with a little crown piece. So the way to do it in cosplay to make sure that you miss that, or hide rather that that line between the tights and the face paint, is that we're gonna put this crown piece right across the top of where the tights will end, or the headpiece will end, and then her skin begins. So trying to keep that in mind with the thickness of this is something that I am trying to think about in the back of my brain while putting all this together, because we don't want it to look like, we want it to look as natural as possible, even though it's a Star Wars alien. So this is my first experience with making a lekku, but it is something I've wanted to do for a long time, so I'm excited to have this opportunity to do the thing. Now I did, this is our headpiece right now. And it's still not quite tacky, but we'll see if we can just encourage it to dry a little bit faster this way. Yeah. I did find a really nice pattern for headpieces. Now this is not the one that we're gonna use, but I'm gonna make it to sort of do a test run of it. And see, because she wants this crown sort of piece to make sure everything gets hidden. But it is made by Mahan, M-A-H-H-E-N. And I found her on Instructable. Oh, sorry. Made by M-A-I-H-I-E-N. So that's the pattern that I'm going to use as a base for the headpiece when we get to that point. So we got a little bit of tension because it's circular, so you can see that means it's not quite ready to be stuck yet. But it is definitely getting there. And like I said, the tutorial that I've been following for the upholstery foam, she used a 1/2 inch. As you can see, this is much thicker. This is 1 inch thick, what I had on hand. So because of her thinness, that she was able to not really do any kind of modifications when she put it on her head. So we will see if we need to thin it out at all. It actually doesn't take this glue very long to dry. It just feels like forever because I want it to be dry already. It is true of most glues, yeah. Me and hot glue are very dangerous, and I think that super glue would melt the foam. I haven't actually tried it. I don't actually have any on hand, because I work with a lot of plastics, and super glue and plastic, they are not friends. At least not the plastics I work with. Although super glue does have that, what is it, the zap or whatever it's called, where you can, I know that the mini makers use it. People who put their minis together, their gaming minis and stuff. That like you put the super glue on and you hold it, and then you spray or have your friend spray it to speed up that drying process. Yeah, I actually have a super cool chart from makezine.com that is it's like a glue matrix of materials that you can use and the glues that are best for them. And it has been fantastic. So I highly recommend, if you are in need of what glues do I use for what projects, I highly recommend. It's makezine.com, and it's a I got my camera clipped on it, so I don't see what the title of the chart is. But it goes through, it's got fabric and glass and paper and foam and styrofoam and rubber and leather. And then it's sort of a cross. So like the only thing that works with like wood and I can't see what that is, but yeah, so wood is construction adhesive or wood glue, right? Nothing else is going to work for wood on wood, according to this chart. But if someone took the time to make me a fancy chart, I'm going to use it, especially when it's free on the internet. So this is mostly dry now. We got our hat, our inner hat. I'll call it the inner hat. You can see the little spots where it's pulling apart is where it still hasn't quite finished drying yet. I am quite pleased with the silicone brushes, though. That has been really nice. I was throwing out a lot of those sponge brushes, a lot of the inexpensive ones that you got from the hardware store. And I felt kind of bad about buying these brushes and making them basically disposable. I mean, I know they don't last forever, but if you take care of your brushes take care of you. It is what my grandpa always said. It's very specific advice for a very specific time. So this is what I'm going to be using with my contact cement from now on, just silicone brushes with no bristles. And the contact cement doesn't eat at it or anything like that. So yeah, all right, so that's pretty much dry. Nothing tacky on the inside, so this is what we're working with. That is definitely going to require some modifications to thin it out. I feel probably have to carve in some sloping and stuff like that, but the idea is so I think what we'll probably do is we'll do another layer of we'll glue these together to make another rectangle, put another layer on, and then sort of like making a cake, and then cut it back down so that we can make the nice curves and attach the lekku to it. So that is going to be the plan of attack for next time. But it is 11 o'clock, so I am going to have to say goodbye for the morning. And don't forget to check out Cosplay Your Way. They are their information is in the description. I got this super cool shirt from them, and they have a yeah, it's a short stream, I guess, in the span of streams. That pesky day job, and yeah. So check out Cosplay Your Way. I'm gonna put this up on YouTube probably tomorrow. I think whatever the time is that Twitch lets me to put it up there. And be sure to subscribe so that you can come join us first thing. And we'll see if we're still working on, I mean, we'll still be working on lekku next time, but maybe I'll have this all sussed out. Also, you can check out on, we're the Geek Forge on Facebook, we're Geek Forge on Instagram, and we're the Geek Forge on Twitter, and we talk about our projects there. And you can check me out playing a troll for Shadowrun on Tuesday nights at twitch.tv/masterofrem, and at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central. And yeah, we have an Etsy store, thegeekforge.etsy.com, and we have a website, geekforge.org. So come and say hey, follow us, and we'll be posting pictures of our projects. And we'd love to, we also do polls on Instagram for what our live should be about. And what won this week was working on the lekku. The other project I had was putting together a Riddler shirt, which is like a bowling shirt, but with question marks all over it. So come and hang out, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks everybody for stopping by, and I hope that you all have a great rest of your day. Bye.